Hello and welcome to a solo RPG playthrough. I'm going to play Artefact. This is a solo journaling game. This is, I think who this is by Jack Harrison, and it's available. I got it in PDF form, and you can find it online if you look for it. This helps you to generate an artifact, a weapon, an item, piece of clothing, an instrument, things like that. That you get the experience of really fleshing this out and the history of this item. So we're going to go ahead and get started. There are some audio tracks that come with the game that are used during brief meditation periods where you think about the item. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this. We're going to create a weapon. I've got a few campaigns starting up soon, and I thought let's make a weapon for one of those campaigns. The game, and I'm reading from the rules, the game is about magical items, tools with incredible powers, and a sentience that grows as you play. Items do not die, but can be tarnished, broken, buried, or otherwise lost and forgotten. Items cannot act alone. A keeper must seize it. Only then can it travel around, seeing wondrous places and having grand adventures. Its agency is limited, shackled to its keeper, but it can influence its situation through magic, communication, and force of will. Writing the story of each keeper, consider how they obtained the item, how they treat it, what they achieve with it, and how it changes them and their destiny. And magical items outlive even the most venerable keepers. Through death, bestowal, or carelessness, a keeper relinquishes the item, and your stint with them ends. The sun turns, seasons pass, and flesh and blood return to the earth. The item is at rest, inert and waiting. You always choose how much time passes while you wait. Eventually, a new keeper will arrive. Your items have traits. These are characteristics describing a magical item. They might be physical or magical properties or facets of its developing personality. And there will be changes. The item evolves and develops, shaped by its experiences, the passage of time, and the keepers who wield it. And so at certain points during this game, we might be asked to change something about the item. That means adding, removing, or modifying perhaps a trait, a physical detail, a detail about something in the world, or a response to one of our artifact questions. Let's go ahead and start. This takes place over 3 acts, forming the item's story as the game progresses. Each act has its own set of keepers and time options to choose from. So the first thing that we will do, I've decided to do a weapon to start out. And the first thing we will do is to describe the keeper, name and a few details, how they acquired the item. And then we'll answer prompts under the keeper's heading. So let's go to, let's see what page it is. Actually, no. So after choosing the artifact, sorry, I jumped ahead in the rules. After choosing the artifact, you answer the opening questions about your item's creation. You describe the person who made the item and then add 3 traits. So let's do that. So who crafted this? Crafted by Harald Bjornsson, a humble metalsmith in the desolate winterlands. Harald was, let's see if we can, it's not going to let me page down. Well, we'll just do it this way. Crafted by Harald Bjornsson, a humble metalsmith in the desolate winterlands. He was the son of Bjorn, a village elder who once worked iron, but an injury in a his left arm. He was unable to work iron and taught Harold everything he knew. The forge was humble yet prosperous, and the tools had been passed down for generations. Alright, we need some traits, and this form fillable PDF, of course, is not going to let me do this easily. So let's add some traits here. 3 traits. This weapon is rune scored. It has various runes and characters etched around the surface. It is quenched in the first melt of spring. And it is, let's say this is an axe. Maybe a double-headed axe. Perfect. Okay, so now I think we need to determine, let's see, we've got our traits. We're supposed to make a sketch. I'm not going to do that on here. We will now, we choose our first keeper. So there is a page on here. I think let's scroll through. So we choose a keeper from below and then resolve them. We describe the keeper and the acquisition, answer the keeper's questions. So I have a question. This is not the same as the person who crafted this item, I don't believe. I don't think they are the first keeper. But we can say, let's say it is. Let's say it's Harald Bjornsson. And so he might be a folk hero. And since it's not going to work to type this into the PDF, let's just do this out loud. So describe the isolated village they work to protect. So the village is part of a tribe, a barbarian tribe. And let's say this is the tribe of the white fox, like an Arctic fox. Very small village. These folk they tend to lean into the not the power that like the tribe of the bear or the wolf might have, but more cunning. As the Greeks would call it, metis. These are folk who think their way through problems, and they are very clever and very, very crafty. In fact, they rely on their ability to survive, comes from their ability to hide and to stay clear of great danger. They're opportunists. This axe helped to protect, this hero helped to protect their home in a time of crisis. Perhaps the first time this axe tasted blood. He had made this axe for his father Bjorn as a symbol of the great sacrifice that his father had made in that raid years before. This was to commemorate that battle. In fact, perhaps the runes on there describe those who had fallen in that battle, and the heroic deeds of Bjorn, Harold's father. And one day, early in the season, the tribe was raided by a rival tribe. Perhaps this was the tribe of the wolf, and the wolves came and tried to scatter this tribe, to steal what furs that they had set aside, whatever material wealth they might have had. The tribe of wolves came on a raid, and raiding was likely very common in this age, especially once the winter had ended, is when the war season and the raiding seasons would start. And the tribe of the White Fox were raided, and Harold used this axe to defend his village, and his people actually managed to get away for the most part. They're used to fleeing and letting others come and take what they have. They can rebuild. They can hunt again. They can trap and trade again with others. But this time Harold stood his ground, and he would not give up his blacksmith tools. These were a great gift from his father, and so he stood near his forge, refusing to give it up. And the chieftain of the tribe of the wolf was very impressed by this, and did not kill Harold, but instead let him keep his forge, let him keep his axe, and told him that one day he would be the leader of this tribe, for he was the first to stand up to the storm that came. Once we get through through here, we're going to choose one from tables, page 29 or 30. Oh, it's in the other book actually. So let's go to that other book. I've got it on another device here. 29 or 30. Okay, so this would be a victory and valor. We can choose an option from below, answer questions, and then change something as you grow notorious, proud, or legendary. And that's not Harold growing notorious, proud, and legendary, but the axe. And so I think, one of these says a long-standing feud between two prominent factions was resolved. How did you help your keeper convince the fractious leaders to come to the negotiating table? So I think within the tribe of the White Fox, I think there were some that realized if we stand up to the wolves, they will stop coming, and the others said no. For generations, we have run to the hills, we've given up our lands, we can rebuild, even though it's a significant amount of work. That was the fraction in the tribe, and it was resolved when you brought this axe, and there was a place where the tribe would meet, a great oaken table, and they were meeting in there, and Harald Bjornsson came in and swung the axe over his head, slamming it down into the table, where it actually cleaved the table in half. And he told them that it was time to make a choice, and that the only choice they could make was to rise up and to defend their home, that they had given in to the cunning nature of the fox for too long. But the fox, when cornered, can be very fierce, and so they changed their way with this. Now we need to change something about the physical appearance. I'm going to say that the axe got notched. I think a notch in the axe would be fantastic here. I'm not going to scroll through and change that, but it now has a notch on there. We will also answer an artifact question. Let's see. So over time, you gain a name or honorific. What is it and why? The name is what should we do? Something to do with maybe foxes, which would be like a vixen. Trying to think I know what a male fox is. The female is the vixen. The male is a Todd or a Reynard. I kind of like the name Todd, but I think Reynard is awesome. So maybe we'll call it Reynard's Retribution. And it was given that because it sought to turn the tide of the mistreatment of the tribe of the White Fox. And let's do I think we only answer one of these. Let me go back. The instructions they're kind of spread all over the place. Let's get back up, going through here. There's no I guess there's a little bit of structure. So we answer the 2 questions or prompts listed under the keeper's heading. Choose a memorable event or deed. Answer 1 of your artifact questions. Finally, think about how the keeper ends their time with your item. Where and how do they lose it or relinquish it? Well, I think that someone in the tribe, a rival that did not want to change the way things were, I think that this someone backstabbed Harald Bjornsson, literally stabbed him in the back, knifed him, and killed him, maybe on the eve of a ceremony where he might step up to become the new village elder. And he was slain out in the woods while he was hunting. And this fellow stabbed him in the back, and the axe was buried under the snow for some time. And we'll decide how much time that was shortly. So now we do a rest as we await the next keeper. You rest in darkness, or I do with my eyes closed. The act will tell me what to think about while we wait. I can use the ambient soundtrack or wait in silence with the timer. We'll use the soundtrack. Don't worry if your mind wanders while waiting. Your item's mind wanders too. Eventually the silence breaks and a new keeper appears. So let's do that. Let's go to the keeper. Let's see. I think that's down here. Okay. So yeah, now we need to choose the amount of time. I think it sits for a week. Let's do a week. So we're going to rest for 10 seconds, and after we complete the rest, we'll choose a new keeper. Then if we've chosen 2 keepers from this act, move on to a time of glory. Okay, let's just rest for a day then. So I'm going to play the 1 day soundtrack here. Eyes closed, thinking about this. Okay, that was actually 2 days, but that's close enough. Um, we'll choose a new keeper, and this keeper will now be um, a rogue without master. So there was a. This is the. No. Let's change it. Let's do. Yeah, no. Let's do a rogue without master. So this rogue without a master, it was found a by a fur trapper. And this fur trapper, he was unaffiliated with any of the tribes. In fact, he was from the lands to the south, where it was slightly more civilized than up here. They actually lived in villages rather than nomadic camps. They traded with others. They traveled to faraway lands to trade. They used, they had a legal system that wasn't just the tribal elder speaks all. This rogue without a master, his name was Michael, Makael, and Michael, how did this axe help him pull off his boldest stunt yet? Well, let me change this as well. To pull off his boldest stunt yet, I think what we'll do, once I change this, to make it a little more legible, sorry about that, there we go. So he found this axe while trapping, and he took this with him. He did not realize the significance of this axe at all, but he took it back down to the civilized lands, and here this thing from the wild had now entered into civilization, and he began to weave a tale around this axe, and it was a bold-faced lie. There was nothing of truth in this axe. But he began to say how this axe was once used by the race of giants that populated the land, and he had found it in a crypt to giants, and he had escaped with his life only through great courage had he done so. He had followed a bear into this cave, and he ended up having to fight the bear off with knives, stabbed the bear, and hid in there for a time. And that's when a spirit came and told him where the axe was, and told him that any who wielded this axe would be a king over many. And so he brought this, looking to sell it in town. And that was his boldest stunt, was I want to make a profit off of this. And many that heard him were covetous. And so what happened is that night is when the next keeper arrives. So it's going to be no time at all. So there's no stop to rest. That night he was drinking, and he was out on a small fishing boat, passing his time. He had the axe with him on the boat, and some folk that were envious of him wanted to steal the axe, and they came up to his boat, shot arrows into him, and he tried to roll over the side of the boat to get away, carrying the axe with him, but the weight of the axe proved too heavy, and he was not able to swim with these arrows sticking out of him, blood and air seeping out of his punctured lungs. He would not relinquish his hold on the axe, and the axe dragged him down to the bottom. And there he lay for a decade. And this will take us into the next keeper, a time of glory. And so let's wait a decade. Okay, after a decade, we choose a keeper from below. This will be a bandit king. Well, this was first pulled up from the depths of the sea by another fisherman. And this fisherman brought the axe down to the civilized lands, to the village of Hildgulf. And when they arrived there, they sold it for money. And this axe, it looked as though it had only been in the water for perhaps a few hours. The wood was of the handle was still intact and in good shape, and there was no rust upon the iron head. The blade was still sharp, except for that notch in there, and the runes were still emblazoned along the axe head. Now, this was bought by a bandit king. And this bandit he ran the thieves guild in the town of Hildgulf. And to help this bandit king, whose name was Carl, Carl the Knife, they called him. Carl used this to ascend to his crooked throne by using it to execute his rivals, or even those within his guild that went against him. This was the headsman's axe, and he was definitely ruthless. Let's talk about. Let's go down to one of the tables again. It's not on this PDF, but I've got it in a book. This is Neglect and Mischief. Oh, nice. So here's one. It says, you intentionally deceived or refused to help your keeper, leading to their demise. What took place and why did you act in that way? So there was an innocent that was brought in. Perhaps this person had been accused of going against the Thieves Guild and was brought in. In fact, even better. So Carl, the bandit king, he wanted this woman named Soraya, and Soraya was the wife of a young man who ran a let's say I don't want to have it be an inn. Let's do let's say he was responsible. He was the local wine merchant. Okay, so he was a little older. He was a local wine merchant. He would bring in wine from the south, and so he was relatively affluent. And the bandit king Carl coveted this man's wife. And to get her, he trumped up some charges against this fellow and brought him in to execute him. And when Carl picked up the axe slipped from his grip. And when it did, it was just as he was raising the axe above his head, it slipped out of his grip, and the blade dug deep into Carl's neck, killing him. And this led to his demise. The Reynard's Retribution acted in this way because it was a noble weapon, and it had been called upon to do ignoble actions, and it did not want to do that. So the let's go to an artifact question. Of all the places you've seen on your travels, one stands out and you long to return. Where is it? And it is the place where you were forged. And it's in the frozen wastes, in the frozen tundra of the untamed wild. and why it feels as though it has a duty that has yet to be achieved. It has a certain greatness that has not come to pass as of yet. Let's go back down to the Time of Glory. How does the keeper lose us? Or who is the new keeper? Because this is going to be some time. Perhaps when the axe kills Carl, there is a loud, a bright flash like lightning and a loud roar of thunder, and the thieves scatter, seeing this as a bad omen. And this wine merchant takes the axe and takes it with him, knowing that this axe saved his life. And this ended up on his wall for quite some time. In fact, let's say it rested on his wall for a decade. So let's listen to A Decade. All right, a decade passes, and we have to choose a new keeper. Well, there's a fire. There's a fire at the home of this wine merchant, and the wine merchant and his wife are both killed in the fire. And as the locals come and sift through the ashes, they find that this axe is unburnt and unscored by the flames. And so it is taken by, we'll do a righteous champion. So this righteous champion is a local follower of the Braga, which is the gods that they worship. And he sees that this is protected of the gods, and his religious order goals are to bring about the cleansing of the north. That the gods believe there will be an epic battle at some point where those who are worthy will be taken up to whatever their version of Valhalla would be, and those who are unworthy will be cut down as saplings. And his epic quest was perhaps he went on a crusade up into the north to try to find those worthy of going to Valhalla with him. And let's look at an event here. Victories in Valor. How about try out. Let's do. It says a great warrior was trapped in an impossibly tall tower by an evil sorcerer. I don't think there's tall towers, but we'll say in a great warrior was trapped in ice by an evil sorcerer. Why did your keeper owe them their life, and how did you help free them? And my keeper's name is Karel, and Karel knew this other warrior. In fact, it was one that he deemed was one of the worthy, if not perhaps the most worthy. And he had to go and free him because this would be the champion of the armies of good. And so he went and went on a great quest to go and free him from the ice. And it was finally Reynard's Retribution's sharp blade hewing through the ice that managed to free this fellow. And then Karel with the axe was able to destroy the wizard as well. I'm going to jump ahead now. Let's do a rest. What I'm actually going to do over this rest, there's a table that's called Dust and Rust. And let's say it rests for a century. So when he felled the wizard, a curse was placed upon him with the wizard's dying breath. And the curse was that Karel could only wander. He could never return home, could never be around other people, and so he always had to wander the wilds. And after a short period of time, Karel died. And the axe lay there in the tundra for over a century. So let's do a century. All right, a century passes. Let's go on the Dust and Rusts or Shifts and Currents. Let's see which one I want to do. Let's do Dust and Rust. So during this century, a colony of small creatures nest close to where you rest. You become obsessed with their daily routines and little politics, watching generations pass. Describe them. Do you see their downfall, or are you recovered by a keeper? Well, I think it's going to be fox. I think that uh, a a family of fox nest and burrow where this axe fell. In fact, as they dig out the burrow, they come across this axe, and it ends up being in the center of their burrow. They burrow around it, and generations live in this burrow of these fox, and the axe seems to provide them with warmth, and so that's why they stay there. And Reynard's Retribution is obsessed with these fox and seeing them as they grow, and they're very prosperous in this burrow. The young are many and strong, and as decades and generations pass, overhead the stomping of herds on the migration, wars and burnings and great storms pass overhead. Yet down here in the dark confines of this burrow, Reynard's Retribution takes on the attributes of this family of fox, and it enjoys being part of this family unit. However, with the passage of time, we come to the ruination. Who finds this? I think a pair of treasure seekers. I think they find this. Perhaps there's a great heat wave that melts much of the snow. It creates a lot of runoff, and the runoff erodes away this burrow, exposing the axe to the open air again after over 100 years. And a pair of treasure seekers stumble across this. Lars and let's say Lars and Lothar. Lars and Lothar, they come across this, and they both covet it. And so, much like Smeagol and Deagle, there's a fight, and one of them is slain by Reynard's Retribution. I'll say that Lars takes the axe and slays his brother. And let's go answer an artifact question. I'm gonna use the last one. We're gonna change it just a little bit. You were once used to kill someone that your keeper was madly in love with. Not madly in love with, but it was their brother. And describe the person they were forced to eliminate. Lothar. Lothar was very kind. Lothar had found the axe first and had shown it to Lars, and Lars demanded it for his own. And Lothar said, "No, I found this axe, and this is a great boon for both of us." But all that Lars could see was that he wanted this, and if he could not have it, his brother could not have it either. And I think that Reynard's Retribution did love Lothar. It was eager for Lothar to wield it, because Lothar was just, and Lars was definitely not. And so we'll put down Lothar killed by his brother Lars. Let's go back to our table here. Time of ruination. Consider how the keeper loses you, and we're going to do it is eager to slip out of the hands of Lothar, or of Lars, and at the first opportunity it betrays him, and Lars sets the axe up against a tree to relieve himself in the woods one day. And as he is doing this, Lars has a stroke and dies, just up and keels over right there. Almost as though Reynard's retribution was somehow able to constrict those blood vessels or cause that shift in Lars until he fell and died, and the axe lay resting against that tree for some time. Let's go to one more. In fact, this will be the end, I think. Let's do shifts and currents. No, dust and rust. Let's do dust and rust. A sapling grows around you, and with time becomes a mighty gnarled tree. How does your magic shape the tree, reflecting your inner nature? So this is probably centuries that pass, and as the tree begins to grow around the axe, the bark takes on, you can see the writing of runes in the bark, and for generations this is a revered tree, a holy tree, and folk come to perform religious rites at this tree because they see these marks in runes as though this is the god's tree. And this axe dwells deep within until one day a lightning bolt comes down during a storm, striking the tree, splitting it in half, and the axe is exposed once again, waiting for someone to come and claim it. Now, let's see, I don't think this one says what happens at the end, but I've got it in the actual rules. Let's do, I think there's an epilogue of some sorts. Let's see. Ending the game. Having resolved your final keeper, the item is left broken beyond repair or abandoned in a cold, dark place forever. Well, it's still inside that tree. Take a moment to sit in silence in the dark. Think about how your item is remembered, if at all, through stories, art, or archaeological remains in a museum. Think about the keepers you left behind and the twists and turns of their storied lives. Then turn the lights back on, have a snack, and stretch out as you leave your item behind, concluding your time with this game. So Reynard's Retribution is still inside that tree, waiting for that storm. That lightning bolt will fall only when the time is right, when that axe is called upon one more time to fulfill its oath and destiny, and see the great honor for which it was created, to see that for itself once again, to be a tool in the hands of those who would show courage and honor and valor and bravery. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I'm going to take some time to think about the story of this axe. We will see it again in a game at some point, and it may end up with a different name because no one knows the story of this axe except for us. But those who find it will craft stories of their own. Thank you.